All right, so now this should work. I'm on the right Wi-Fi and Inception. Welcome to the weekly build. So what I'm going to be doing tonight is some final, polish to the behind the scenes podcast episode that we recorded in a live stream earlier last week. And the goal here is I've been thinking about how do I do a project report for a text that is not visual. And in a sense, the report itself or the final product is going to be this podcast that is being edited together, which will then eventually be released on the Criterion Correction podcast channel. So what I'm going to be doing tonight is, the last stage of the video portion of this, which is editing that episode and talking, as I go through a little bit about this process and some final takeaways. I think that the episode that Ed and I recorded is actually a pretty good indication of what it takes to start a podcast. If you're interested in that, feel free to give either the live stream a listen, or I guess you'll get to hear it through this as well. Regardless, I'm going to start chopping this up, and thanks for sticking with me through this fun project. So that means let us dive in. First step is going to be finding where these two sync up. The good thing that waveforms are pretty dependable. I'm just not quite sure where to begin. And I finally get to say my line where others can hear it. We've got waveform. All right.
Yep, I actually already hit record. Wasn't sure you were going to give me a cue, so I figured I would go for it.
It totally is.
That's one of the things.
So I'd like to
about
welcome
podcasting.
my
Make sure that you know your partner is recording.
Is that it?
Your partner is recording.
It is. It totally is. It totally is. So I'd like to welcome my Criterion Correction Collab too, in a way. So I'd encourage anyone who might be watching this at the moment to go check out the Criterion Correction podcast.
It's really not.
Oh, okay. There we are. This will be the start. We've got waveform.
He says this all the time. He thinks it's going to catch on, and it's not. It's really not.
It is. It totally is. It totally is. So I'd like to welcome my Criterion Correction collaborator, Ed, to the weekly build. All right, so I'd like to welcome my Criterion Correction collaborator, Ed, to get to say my line where others can hear it. All right, actually, let's just cut it here. So Ed really does not care for the We've Got waveform, which is a reference to We've Got movie sign from Mr. Science Theater 3000. This is an interesting position because I wasn't sure exactly where this was going to release. I think that means I am going to add in the Criterion Correction music, since this is what I see as a behind the scenes look at how the podcast is made for anyone who's interested, and it'll be a supplemental episode released at some point. So let's do that part of this. Oops, missed it. And then put that there. We've got waveform.
He says this all the time. He thinks it's going to catch on.
And actually, I've neglected one of the most important parts here, which is actually going to be running this through the noise reduction and equalizers. So let's just pop that in. All right, so while both of those are processing, I guess I'll talk a little bit about my, reflective thoughts on podcasting after a year of doing it and after making this series. That it's actually been quite a while since I've looked into the actual setup for getting the podcast on the air, if that makes sense. That I just take it for granted that most of the systems in place are going to work. And so in some of the earlier streams, when I had to go about thinking, well, how do you set up a WordPress? How do you get PowerPress on there? How do you submit a podcast to iTunes? It was something I hadn't grappled with in a while. At the same time, it's pretty straightforward. And I think what's really cool about this as a medium is it's providing a lot of access for people to delve into a wide variety of niche topics. That podcasts are the new blogs, which is kind of this weird sensation in terms of hopping on the bandwagon, but also getting involved in the conversation. And one thing I've really enjoyed about this, and we talk about in this episode, is the ability to actually maintain a friendship over a digital platform in a way that I think is a little bit more meaningful than just random conversations over Facebook. That's Ed and I have known each other for over 10 years now in a variety of different contexts. And since starting this project, we've had an opportunity to almost get back together like we did when we were living in the same geographical location. And we actually started a couple projects, including Cinebombs, which was, I guess, a website devoted to the worst in cinema. Someone else has already claimed that domain since we relinquished it, which it's a fantastic domain. But we would scour Netflix and try to find the most god-awful movies imaginable, usually in the horror genre, which led us to gems like Phantasm, which actually is a pretty decent movie, I think, and the Phantasm series, which, like any series that develops a mythology, gets a little kookier and crazier as time goes on. And that was great, but now with this, even though I am not exactly a reputable film buff, it's been a lot of fun to sort of expand my cinematic horizons, and in the process of that, keep up with an old friend. All right, so these are both now a little bit better in terms of their noise, which I am going to be interested to see how this works as we go through it, because as you hear now, my laptop's fan is just humming along like crazy because it's getting a little up there in laptop ears. So I'm thinking that might get rid of the buzz from this live stream, but it might not, and just going to have to deal with that, I suppose. So, oh, wait, I forgot. So now I'm going to add the equalizers. I don't know what the correct way of saying that is, to both of our tracks. We each have our own settings. And apply. Alright, this is a lot faster, but after that we'll be ducking both of these into the match loudness feature that I've talked about in a previous stream. So as a whole, it's a really cool medium to play around in, because I think we're used to seeing a lot of visual text online and thinking, oh, it's so awesome how you can Photoshop all these different things, how you can take an image and manipulate it and make it into something completely different than what it is. And here, when you start getting into podcasting, it's so cool what you can do with an audio file. And I don't know what kind of examples there will be in this editing process, but the final result, the finished text that comes about as a process of editing and all of this fun stuff, could be a lot different than the raw cut. A lot of stuff can get cut out. It's really cool, and often, unlike even video editing, it's very seamless. That occasionally, if something is hard to edit, you might be able to pick up that there's a little snip. But by and large, you won't know when I cut out certain portions of this if you only hear the final text. And I think that's kind of cool. All right. So I'm going to run this through Match Loudness, which again does a lot of the heavy lifting for me, because then I don't have to worry about whether or not it's equal. And for once, we're already actually pretty even in terms of our loudness, which is a rarity. I should probably not mess with the gain settings on my microphone as a result. Once this is done, I'm hoping that maybe my poor little laptop fan can get a little break, but I'm not counting on it. But this is definitely the heaviest processing stuff we'll have to do for a bit. Alright, so those are both finished. It's good to go back to the multi-track file, save all of it so that it updates. Save frequently, as with any editing project. Do not take it for granted that the program is not going to crash, because it has done so Not lately, but when I first began this project, I would be making really intricate cuts. I'd be making sure that all the filler words were gone, and then it would crash on me and I'd have to redo 15 minutes of work, which was not fun.
He thinks it's going to catch on, and it's not. It's really not.
It is. It totally is. It totally is. So I'd like to welcome my Criterion Correction collaborator.
We're added to the Weekly Build series, so this is kind of a cool crossover and sort of cross-promotional too in a way. So I'd encourage anyone who might be watching this at the moment to go check out the Criterion Correction podcast.
Encourage anyone who might be watching this at the moment to go check out the Criterion Correction podcast.
And it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So basically.
Whoa, what is that? That's weird. I'm gonna assume this is just a little bit off.
Podcast.
And it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So.
What? Alright, something weird happened here, which I'm just gonna take that out.
So basically what we're going to be working towards is this week I am really delving into the process of composing a podcast. The Criterion Correction podcast.
Oh, actually that makes it a good place to sort of filter this out for the rest of the theme. So I'll pull it back in. Add the fade. Save again, because you always want to save. And then I need to figure out where I want to cut this.
Basically, what we're going to be working towards is this week I am...
There we go. That should be good. Cut out a lot of that annoying junk there. Also get rid of the recording element that's happening there. And I just want to see something. So Inception, yes, okay. That's all there. Things are also a little slower just because I know a lot of processes.
This week I am really delving into the
process of composing a podcast. Last night I talked about how to go about hosting a website, getting a domain, some of that cool stuff. Eventually I'm going to dig into the nitty-gritty details of actually setting up the podcast feed. But I wanted to actually just give a representation of what it's like to record an episode at a distance, because you and I, we have been doing this podcast for a year now, right? Yep, we've been doing it for a year, and as you're alluding to, we are not even close to being in the same place. You are in North Carolina, and I'm close to being in the same place. You are in North Carolina, and I'm in Virginia. And even my conception of geography is such that I know those things are not next to well, they are next
to each other, but
but the towns are not. They're not on the border of Virginia and North Carolina, to be clear. True, but at least we're in the same time zone. That makes things a little bit easier in terms of collaborating. Yeah, so about, I guess, a little over a year ago, we came up with the idea for this podcast. I was like, hey, let's do a podcast, and you were the person actually figured out a focus for it, which was quite handy. Yeah, and I figured, and this might be
a tip for others as well. I wanted to do something that
which was quite handy.
Oh,
there we go. And see here, we're just going to cut off a whole slew of intro stuff to tighten it up a bit.
Which was quite handy.
I wanted to do something that was rather limited in focus, something that appealed to our interest.
That was rather limited in focus, something that is limited.
All right. And so this is the detail-oriented part of the process.
Limited in focus, something that appealed to our interests, but still allowed us enough room to exercise our creativity with. And I think no matter what
endeavor you're going with in terms of podcasting, whether that be fiction or any kind of culture
thing, I think what you
want your focus to be, and something that at least mildly stand out in a poor universe of content, is important.
All right.
Oh yeah, I think it's important in some cases
to identify a niche audience, just because there are so many podcasts out there, and when we even investigate the niche of the Criterion Collection of films, we are by no means alone in podcasting about this series of movies.
Something that I did not know. Something that I...
There we go. And so it's basically a process of cutting and stitching back together, that you are concerned with making sure that the cuts are going to be logical, but you also want to get rid of some just the filler stuff that happens when you don't have a detailed script laid out.
Something that I did not know, and perhaps wish I had, and perhaps wish I should.
All right.
Wish I had, but even given, but even had, but
Okay.
even given.
Here we are.
Even
Given that, I don't even think it's necessarily a bad thing that someone else is doing the thing you're doing.
And so one of the challenges is always being zoomed in far enough that you can make precise cuts, but not so far out, not so close in that you can't see what's coming next.
Oh, yeah.
So long as
You have some kind of new thing that you can add.
new th- n-
And so cut that out, pull back over. Also helps to have your own keyboard shortcut set up for the program you're using. That I've modified the ones here slightly so that it's basically easy for me to do the things I do constantly, such as make cuts.
new thing that you can add.
Add to that thing. I mean, there's nothing new under the sun. It's what you can do that is new to that thing. That was handled, but hopefully made sense.
Everything is a remix.info.
Which is a good site, actually. A good video series on Remix, if you haven't seen it.
So,
Indeed.
yeah. And I agree that I think. Yeah.
All right. I'm being a little bit more careful than I usually am with the podcast because I'm talking about editing, which means I should be exemplifying the editing practices I'm speaking about. Whereas in our usual episodes, I think I tend to be a little bit less edit crazy than Ed, especially from a conversation we'll have here later on.
Indeed.
And I agree.
But I think it's actually good. We're in pretty good company with some cool podcasts out there, like Criterion Cast, and I know that they do also focus on some other elements, such as the actual, more of the behind the scenes.
Actual elements, such as the actual elements, such as the actual, more of the behind the scenes kind of production of it is elements such as the actual more of the behind the scenes kind of production.
So let's see if this cut works.
Actual behind the scenes kind of production of
Special features and cool stuff that we don't really have as much access to, but it is interesting that we get to be part of a conversation of a sort. So I like that. Well, you don't have access to because you don't believe in physical media. However, I can't even talk that much because even though I have most believe in physical media. However, I can't even talk that much because even though I have most of the DVDs that we discuss.
Have most of the DVDs that we
I usually don't delve into the special features, so any credibility I have is now shot.
we're both heathens. It's okay. It's okay. So
Tonight, I thought that we would just talk a little bit about our backgrounds in terms of what we thought were some of the interesting things about doing the podcast, what we've learned over the past year. And I'm actually screen recording this. I don't know if you knew that, Ed, so my screen is visible. Yours, of course, is not, unless you share it through Skype, which you don't have to.
that's what we've learned over the past year.
Okay, so I'm going to try making a cut just because the stuff with screen recording was great when we were actually streaming this, and there was actually a screen recording going along with it. Now for a podcast, though, this is kind of out of place. So this might be one of the more major edits, is getting rid of some of the, when I call it, visual things on the screen.
And
I'm actually screen recording this. I don't know if you knew that, Ed, so my screen is visible. Yours, of course, is not, unless you share it through Skype, which you don't have to. So what I'm pulling up right now is a list of our scripts. Well, our
intro script, and it's
actually pretty short, but it's something that we've kind of tailored over the past 50-ish episodes, and it's nice to have a place to search for your documents. I use the Ulysses text editor, and as I scroll through it, you can see that I've got basically all of the episode synopses and breakdowns for the past year, just all the little blurbs that get published alongside of it and publicized. So whenever you're starting out, it's really good to have some kind of set pieces like the intro and even a closing script so that you can just...
whenever you're starting out, it's really good to have.
Let's see. Because, I mean, there's some useful stuff in here, but without the actual screen recording. Let's see how this fits together.
learned over the past year. Whenever you're starting out, it's really good to have some kind of set pieces like the
intro and even a closing script so that you can just have that down. So you don't need to think about it as much every single week. But first, I think you're kind of just freewheeling. Absolutely. And both as you know, somebody who records a podcast, but has also been an avid consumer of podcasts, I think it's a pretty common thing.
I'm not sure. I think I'm going to leave that out just because...
Absolutely. And both as you know, somebody who records a podcast, but has also been an...
Let's see if I can this.
freewheeling.
Both as you note, somebody who records a podcast,
but has also been an avid consumer of podcasts, I think it's a pretty common thing for any of them. I suppose it goes in any field of creative endeavor for there to be some rocky moment.
a common thing for a common thing.
Right. It's putting tons of stuff on a chopping block tonight.
Big common thing for there to be
Some rocky moments when you're first starting out, and I think there's nothing wrong with that, and it's certainly normal. And I think as you move forward, you'll find whatever rhythm it is that you have, if you're doing it on your own or if you're doing it with a co-host. But yes, I think you will eventually find that you'll settle down into maybe not distinct segments, but at least some form of routine, even if that routine is to not have a routine.
Yeah, not even have a routine. We should try that sometime.
Yeah.
You get into the rhythm of it. I think that's a good way of describing it, because we've sort of found our way into, I guess what's pretty comfortable at the moment, that generally it's kind of straightforward how we're going to approach an episode each week, what we're going to be talking about, looking for, the lame jokes that we'll inevitably make, but all of that is part of the Criterion Correction brand.
And here I get mocked by
Correction
Ed.
brand.
Oh goodness, we sound like marketing people. Oh, I hope not. That's the last thing I want to sound like here. Obviously, we haven't done that good of marketing this podcast. You use the word brand, that automatically makes you a marketing.
And so this is also a good part where, you know, Ed starts trying to respond to me because we're not sure. And because we recorded separate audio tracks,
This podcast.
cut it out.
You use the word brand, that automatically makes you a marketing flack. Oh, I guess it does. It makes me kind of like a marketing-esque thing. It's like a buzz term to throw out there. Next we talk about synergy. Synergy? That's... No, I've never used that word. But yeah, so the idea tonight is also to...
it makes you a
Oh, I hope not. That's the last thing of the Criterion Correction brand.
oh goodness, we sound like marketing people.
I think, actually, in the name of editing,
Synergy. That's so. The idea tonight is also to. The idea.
all right, so let's see. That's gonna be
Oh,
okay. Yeah, so I actually want to cut all of that and pull this back in.
Marketing people.
the idea tonight is also to take what we're.
we're saying and transform it into a podcast episode.
Like marketing people.
The idea tonight is also to
There we go.
take what we were saying and transform it into a podcast episode. So this is kind of the raw take. This is the
The material that rarely actually gets listened to by the audience, and the goal for me is that by the end of the week I'm actually going to edit this whole thing into a podcast, which will be sort of an interesting example of how something goes from a choppy raw form, in which we often have, when you work over Skype, pauses between our statements because of the very slight delay, and also just not having visual cues to work with to know when someone is actually done making their point.
Yeah, like there.
their point.
Absolutely, and that can make it difficult to edit sometimes because, as I'm sure we'll go into, the two of us share editing duties, basically swapping on a week-over-week basis. And on the one hand, it's kind of like fitting together a puzzle with our different audios, but on the other hand, it's like fitting together a puzzle where sometimes some of the edges are too big, and so maybe sometimes you have to kind of mess with the puzzle more than you usually should with
Yeah, good analogy.
Puzzle,
It's like a puzzle.
and this metaphor is quickly breaking down.
I don't think it's breaking down.
Oh, what?
wonderful metaphor. That's the other thing about recording a podcast, is you get to erase all those little verbal flubs that you make, especially filler words, mispronunciations. It is amazing what you can accomplish in editing an audio file, because unlike even video, there's not really a trace most of the time. It just blends so well together, and it's fantastic, because I can make even this rambling, whatever this is, eventually sound like a very polished, put together thing, which I'm hoping they'll actually work out.
Very polished. put together thing, which I'm hoping that a lot.
Although I'm realizing I'm kind of hitting my microphone a fair amount of times, so that's not good.
Breaking down.
I'm just gonna make sure I don't cut out any of his audio, but not much I can do about the mic hit.
Very polished, put together.
Thing, which I'm hoping they'll actually work out. Also, you can eliminate breathing. Like, we're still breathing, but I'm gonna notice.
Oop,
More like
I can't edit that fast.
explicitly interview type podcast.
You don't hear people with the intake of breaths at the beginning of sentences like that, and that's something that, unless it feels right for the rhythm of a podcast, something I usually take out when editing because it seems distracting. Or at least it would be distracting to me as a listener. Yeah, I think one of the balances is the balance between achieving perfection.
One of the balances. The balance between achieving perfection and being able to edit in a timely fashion, because I know. Yeah, and I think one of the balances. Is.
And I think there it should just be challenges, which technically I could go in and re-record a line and add that in, but I don't think I'm going to exert that kind of effort for this. So you can't even change it afterwards just by dubbing over it. So one of the challenges is the balance.
Yeah, and I think one of the balances is the balance between achieving perfection and being able to edit in a timely fashion.
So here's an example. Crap. And I keep hitting my microphone here too, so bad practice. I think.
Yeah, and I think one of the balances. Yeah, and I think.
Let's see.
The balance between achieving perfection.
Okay, so I'm going to try something here.
Is.
All right. I hit the wrong button.
And I think is. The balance between
All right. So now we're going to take this section.
I think the balance is. Yeah, and I think the balance is.
Okay. That may not be a good example of a good cut here. It's, I think. Ooh, I'm kind of worried about this one. I don't think it's going to work out well.
I think the balance is.
This will be one that people can tell there's a cut.
Yeah, and I think the balance is. Balance is the. Is.
I'm actually going to try this. Sometimes it's the sample you're using. So the balance.
Balance is. Balance is between achieving perfection. Yeah, and I think the balance is between achieving perfection and being able to edit in a timely fashion.
Okay. I think I'm going to leave that in because it's more of the sentiment. Now, whether that is a suave cut that will not be noticed, that's a different issue entirely. But we're going to leave it just because it does work grammatically to
timely fashion. Because I know when I first began editing, it would take me probably about 5 hours to go through a 50-minute episode.
And that isn't an... like the first time I was really perfectionist about it, that I was spending a lot of time going through and doing cuts like the one I just did, but for everything. And it was not sustainable. Not sustainable noise.
Episode that we had done. We had done.
Right, and so this is just trying to cut out blank spaces.
You're alone in that. You're alone in that. It never took me that long. That long. My rule. My rule of.
All right.
My rule of thumb is usually about 2 to 3 minutes for every minute of audio. So if it's a half hour
file, I would expect to take an hour to an hour and a half of editing it into a podcast. So for example, I'm able to listen. I usually watch MST3K episodes while I'm editing.
I don't know how he does that. If I could, it would be up there right now.
Because there are things that I've seen. I don't tell me you don't.
Do it too. No, I honestly.
Not. I can't actually have anything going on in the background while I'm editing.
Really?
Yeah.
I'd go crazy if I didn't.
I mean, it has to be ones I've seen like a lot, so it's not really that I say watching. I'm not really watching. It's just there as background noise, so that there's something going on.
Background noise, so that there's.
Man, I couldn't listen to anything else while doing this. I don't know. I just feel like I wouldn't be able to get anything done.
So that there's something going on.
I feel like I'm learning something now.
Going on. But
I feel like I'm learning something now.
Yeah, and so then here's another great part of the 2-track. My audio in this one sounds kind of airy. I'm not sure why precisely. It just doesn't sound as...
on.
I feel like I'm learning something now.
I mean, my attention is.
Oh, it's probably because of the extra processing. That the processing to get rid of the background noise had to work extra hard.
Still on what I'm
editing, but at least I have something else going on in the background to occupy my mind as well. It makes it sound like I'm not paying attention, but really I am. It's a way for me to concentrate on what I'm doing.
As well. That may not. It makes it sound like I'm. It's well. It makes it sound like I'm not paying attention, but really I am. It's a way for me to concentrate on what.
Yeah. I'm sure. Sounds like an excuse my students would have. Alright, cut that over.
What I'm doing.
No, I get it. I understand it, especially from working with students who are often, like, in a writing process. Do you need music to write? And I think in an editing process, do you need music to edit? And for me, I guess it's just the audio stream.
Sorry, I'm reacting to the fact I'm responding to this in the same way that I'm responding to it in the actual...
I've never tried it, so maybe I'll have to give it a shot next time, but we'll see.
I mean, what I did, it's not basically.
I keep hitting the microphone.
Basically.
It's just infuriating. There we go. That's one thing. It's almost like remix. You can hear the same phrase over and over as you try to splice it.
We'll see.
Basically, in terms of audio mixing, and not that I do very much mixing with this, but basically the TV will be on at like very audible but not loud volume.
On at, basically, the TV will be on at audible.
There we go. Audible. Audible.com. Audiobooks. Not our sponsor.
On at audible but not loud
Volume, and the audio that I'm editing on my laptop will be at a loud volume. So I don't know. Again, don't know if that makes sense. That's kind of how my work process has evolved. And you listen to it in regular speed, right? At regular speed. Yes, I do. Okay, I listen to the Chipmunks version of our podcast,
yes.
Which I can't demonstrate at the moment, but I just love the Chipmunks version. I really think that for a Christmas episode next year, we should do one that is a Chipmunk version of the Criterion Collection.
And so you're hearing that right now. This would be the Chipmunk version, except I think I'd want to find a way to boost the frequency without speeding up the sound. Although, hey, that could also be another portion too. A quick, efficient episode of the correction. Also, what I'm going to do after I finish splicing this is I'm going to add some kind of intro, because otherwise this is going to be very decontextualized for the rest of the channel.
Correction.
That could be interesting as an experiment.
I just...
There's a certain joy in hearing both of our voices, because I use Adobe Audition to speed it up to double time, and it just shifts it into, you know, this like, stereotypical fast, high-pitched speaking tones, and I love it. And sometimes I just wish it was the audio file sometimes. It sounds so much more cheerful, and
I still agree with it. It's so fun listening to it at this speed, and it just seems different, more energetic, for sure. Sometimes that works really well.
more cheerful
and peppy, but it also helps me get through it a little bit faster.
Yeah, that's also the economic.
See, you may have told me that before and I forgot it. You may have told me that.
All right. And the false starts also get to be cut out.
Faster.
You may have told me that before and I
Forgot it, but I couldn't do it like that because I feel if I were listening to it at double time, usually when I'm doing
not that I usually when I'm doing trims to it at double time, I feel if I were listening
to it at double time,
when I'm doing trims to audio, it will either be at when I'm doing
trims to audio, it will either be at the start or end of statements or passages. So it's not that I'm often doing mid-passage editing, but if I do need to do it, if like one of us slips and cusses, or if there's like a digression that doesn't need to be there, I would fear that I would miss that if
I would fear that I would miss that if I was listening to it at that speed.
Okay, so here's an interesting case.
Do it like that because I feel if I were listening for and I forgot it, but I couldn't do it like that because I feel if I were not that I usually.
Okay, so we're gonna cut this stuff out then. There we go.
Usually,
when I'm doing trims to audio, it will either be at the start or end of statements or passages. So it's not that I'm often doing mid-passage editing, but if I do need to do it, if like one of us slips and cusses, or if there's like a digression that doesn't need to be there, I would fear that I would miss that if I was listening to it like that.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. You don't.
Only occasionally.
It's actually still pretty audible, able, words. This will be something I can edit later. It is still pretty easy to pick up.
Occasionally, later. It is still pretty easy to pick. It is.
All right. Cut this back over
to
here.
it at that.
It is still pretty easy to pick up when something has gone awry in the podcast. I find at least that I can tell if there's been a slip up or if something's been repeated in a phrase.
Yeah. Usually. Sometimes I miss.
Yeah. So, what's your? I think we might even aside from the functional differences, I think we have slightly different approaches to basically what we choose to cut and what we don't. And maybe I'm wrong about that, but how do you approach that?
But so, what's your? I think we.
All right. Here we go. We also recorded 2 episodes tonight, so I've been staring at Adobe Audition for quite a while.
He did in a phrase.
I think we might even aside from the functional differences, I think we have slightly different approaches to basically what we choose to cut and what we don't. And maybe I'm wrong about that, but how do you approach that?
Whatever feels right.
Well,
It really depends. In the beginning,
And I've used well too much, so.
it really depends. It really.
And so this is good because I can get rid of the so's that I say way too much.
It really depends. In the beginning, I was much more detail oriented.
Yes. Very true.
Or detail oriented.
I think, and it took me so long because I would consider, well, what if I switched?
I think granted, and it took me
so long because I would consider, well, what if I switch this segment around? What if I change the order or something? Or what if I make sure that I get rid of every single filler word that we have in the podcast? And that goes down to such a granular detail that it's pretty hard to sustain. Now, essentially, I make sure I take out our cuts where we ramble and end up saying, okay, that's not going to work, we should just scrap that. Or I cut out things that we have false starts on phrases. And occasionally, if there's something that just kind of fell flat, I'll just take out a larger segment. But by and large, I'm just going through to make sure that it's relatively polished and that we don't have any glaring flaws. But I'm not looking to make substantive changes in the edits.
Yeah. So I'm a little bit laid back in terms of how that goes nowadays, which is, good and bad.
See, I think I'm a little bit more detail oriented.
Pedantic is the word. You're more pedantic.
in the edits.
I'm a little bit more detail-oriented than you, but not obsessively so. So I do, and I'm sure I missed them if you go back to listen to my edits, but I do tend to take out the beginning filler words. One thing that I've noticed, at least with my software, is you can almost always, like if you look at the waveform, you can end up seeing, like, you can see a little...
If you look at the waveform.
We're going to cut that out.
Look at the waveform. You can end up seeing...
Waveform.
Like, you can see a little... You can end up seeing...
Right. Cut that interjection out. So this is all stuff that, is fun, but...
Waveform. You can see a little bump
crucial.
before you go
into a more sustained waveform, and almost always those little bumps are either filler words or breaths or something like that. So I just developed a feel for just taking that out instantly.
Coughs.
like that.
So I just developed a feel for just taking that out instantly, and I've almost never been wrong about them being that. And in terms of more broader edits, I guess I'm the same in that if a bit or if a discussion were going down either really doesn't work or was more misguided than I thought it was in the moment, I'll take it out. I wouldn't say I do it super frequently, but I would say if we record 30 minutes of audio, I would say 25 minutes would be in the actual edited version.
We've already taken out quite a bit from this episode right here.
Actual edited actual edited.
There we go.
Edited version. And I don't know what that ratio is like for you, but I think that takes out failed bits, places where we both know we messed up, filler words, things like that. Failed bits. We never have failed bits. We just record and everything's perfect. That's the illusion, isn't it? I think you made a mistake in trying to preserve that illusion by having us do this to begin with. Oh,
By having us do this to be by having us do.
It's perfect. We are perfect. Even though I left a little bit of
Having
choppiness
us
in
do
there.
this to begin with.
Oh, I know.
Now this is breaking all of those rules. So I'd like to just ask you what programs do you use to record?
So I'd like to just ask you what equipment, or not equipment, what
programs do you use to record?
what programs do you use to record? To ask you what programs do you use to record and edit?
So I record
In Audacity. And edit in WavePad, which I haven't used, but sounds cool.
Edit.
I
record my audio on Audacity, which is all the software I use is free. So I record it on Audacity. I export it. There's a function export to audio.
So I export it to
audio. I believe that will export as I believe an MP4 file, WAV file. Yeah. And then when it
I export it. I believe an MP4 will export as I. There's a function export to audio.
Well, let's Let's see.
That will export as I believe an MP4 file, or no, I'm sorry, a wave. Believe an MP4 file.
I mean, yeah.
Export it to MP4 file, or no, I'm sorry, a WAV file.
Yeah.
And then
When it comes to the editing process, I found one that's called WavePad, which I'm sure there's many others out there that are wonderful, and this is just one of many. But I'm sure there's many others out there that are wonderful, and this is just one of many. But for me, it was very intuitive in terms of being able to grab audio, move audio, find where to cut audio, and then save it as a WAV file for you to upload.
Yeah. You can see I'm getting sloppy.
Okay, yeah. So
And that works out then. It's pretty easy to use WavePad. Yes, I think both are.
So yeah, this is basically saying you don't need super fancy equipment. You don't need Adobe Audition, which I'm using right now. It has some nice features, but WavePad likely has most of the most important things.
yeah,
Yes, I think both are very, very easy to use. And bear in mind, I know you know this, but I had never done any audio recording or audio editing before, except like on my phone or something like that. So it's not like I was coming to this with a lot of experience. It's really been a lot of trial and error, but
Yeah.
with a lot of experience, it's really been a lot of trial and error. But again, yeah.
of trial and error. But again,
Well, do you-
yeah. Trial and error.
do you feel like you've built a skill set in the past year then?
I do.
I wouldn't pass myself off as a master editor or anything like that. Far from it. There are professionals who could do twice.
Like,
Not even twice, like pick a high number, that number times the job that I can do. But I think I have learned the skill sets that, not that I think will be necessarily professionally marketable, but definitely wouldn't hurt me if, and there could be instances where I could end up using it on the job where that would be useful to me. And so yeah, I think it's definitely a skill set that's been useful to me, even if it's not directly, tangibly, professionally useful to me in the future.
Yeah. So it builds a series of abilities, skills, like we were talking about. It's really cool to get into stuff like this, just to learn how to do it.
Yeah.
Let's cut that out.
future.
And I
I feel the same, but it's, I think before we started this, I had done a podcast for a class at one point that was maybe like 4 minutes long, and Rick's music from Battlestar Galactica in the background, which is very much a no-no if you're putting together, and that's pretty talented. But since then, it really has been interesting to delve into this process, even in terms of things like the leveling of audio. And so that's something that I tend to take on just so we have some consistency, but figuring out how to, for example, match our volumes. It used to be at the beginning very much a matter of trial and error, and so I would have to go through
And so that's the one thing is sped up. It sounds like it's not too bad, but then there's the realization of these gaps are a little bit longer if you're not listening to it at double speed, which means there are things that I should try and take out when I can.
and so
I would have to go through and manually adjust. Okay, do we sound the same volume? Are we the same volume? Am I hearing things? Do the headphones make a difference? And then I discovered in the program I use, Adobe Audition, which is not free, but I have to subscribe to the Creative Cloud for other reasons, so might as well make use of it. That there's an auto match loudness setting. There are a lot of different effects that you can go in and remove noise, which I'm hoping is going to actually work a miracle here, because you can very clearly hear my laptop fan just straining under the burden of streaming and recording, and yeah. No, I just assumed that.
and recording, and yeah.
Cut off those trailing sentences as well.
Recording.
No, I just assumed that was a drone coming to get you. I know. It's that CIA program that to get us. Well, yeah, to get you.
Get us
Well,
yes.
out to get you.
out to get me. Yes, out to get me.
But as my
Collaborator Ed's. But as my, out to get me. But Collaborator Ed as my
Right.
But
there we go. So next week I'm thinking of doing something a little bit more visually oriented. And also, I guess next week isn't this week, since this week's kind of ongoing. A little bit of development.
My collaborator Ed,
for this channel in particular. So that might be something a little bit different to watch. My eyes are actually starting to kind of just like blur from looking at this program. And actually, one thing I can show you that I'm really feel like I should be using is you can change the size of your waveforms to make them easier to see.
collaborator Ed stated we
each record our own audio separately, which has some nice benefits because I know there's ways around it, but in a studio setting, I'm not sure how you isolate the tracks if you're in the same room. I'm sure there must be some technology to do that, but what's really great is that even if we speak over each other, because we have separate audio tracks, we can separate that out. Like, we can move it so we're not overlapping if it prevents, the audience from being able to coherently tell what's going on. And I use that quite a few times just to like clear up when we just end up laughing at something or talking at all at once.
Yeah, it's nice.
But also, I think when we first started, I remember that you recorded the Skype call that we used. And not that you were, not that I think you really ever planned to use that to edit off of, but kind of as a guiding track to use. And
It was a fail-safe. Which, for that one movie, for the one...
as a fail safe.
It was a fail-safe. Which, for that one movie, for
The one Chaplin movie.
The Gold Rush.
Yeah,
I wish I would have used it then, but alas.
But and again, not that you ever planned to use it for the actual audio for the podcast, but even if you had, I would, and because it would certainly be easier, it would save us from having to edit it. But I'm still glad that we don't do that, because if you
Yeah.
listen to, again, I listen to a lot of podcasts, most of them are either in the same room or have a setup like we do, where they record audio separately.
And I don't know how you would level the tracks, because then it would be, is the Skype audio going to be effective? There's a lot of things that can go a little bit wrong if you're just recording a Skype conversation for a podcast.
And the
View it where you can tell somebody is calling in on Skype, the audio quality is just much worse. It's not even that it's unlistenable, most of it's perfectly listenable, but you can tell it's less professional.
Yeah. It's not bad.
the
View it where you can tell somebody is calling listenable, most of it's perfectly listenable, but you can tell it's less professional because, or that is being done at a distance, whereas if we didn't tell you, you wouldn't be.
no.
and I feel
But at least in the early episodes, there's Movie Time with the Mads. Have you checked out that podcast yet?
I have, and I think I know where you're going, so I'll let you finish up there.
Yeah, so
I love it.
I love the people who do it, and it's not like it's a deal breaker, but at least the episodes I listen to, one person is very clearly calling in, and the audio quality is just so different, and it's again, you get used to it. I mean, clearly it doesn't prevent you from listening to it and enjoying it, but at the same time, I feel like anything you can do to avoid that break in immersion is good if you can swing it, but obviously there's benefits to not having to work with two separate audio files, and again, I do have the call recorder screen pulled up. It is something that's useful if you want to just ensure that you have an audio track if something just goes horribly wrong, but as a whole, we've stopped using it, that we can basically just edit these together, and it's very easy. It's very cool how visual the audio editing is in terms of working with the waveform, because you really can just, I can like figure out where episodes begin and now as a result just by looking at the waveform. Like, okay, here's our intro, I'm talking, then you're giving your name, then we're going through the whole spiel, and it's perfect.
Right.
Exactly, and I think that this again is where the kind of puzzle piece metaphor comes into place, because often what I'll do at this point is I'll put together like maybe 2 minutes of audio, which I can just piece together from seeing the peaks and valleys of the waveform, and then just listen to 2 minutes straight, and then from there do the editing of the different false starts, breaths, etc. And is it a lot of time saved? I'm not sure, but at least it provides a better experience for me as the person editing it, rather than just doing it one sliver. I mean, I'm still doing it one sliver at a time, but I'm putting a bunch of slivers together, and then listening, and then making my tweaks, and then moving on. I don't know if that's what you do or not, but it's what I personally
I
find
have no idea what his process is like. I just really don't.
Maybe I'm at,
Helpful.
Maybe. I'm actually recording my editing process soon, so you can eventually watch it and tell me if I'm just doing it all wrong, or if I'm, not following the approved method of podcast editing.
I don't think my way is necessarily inherently right. I mean, you're always going to be wrong. There's no question of that, but it doesn't mean I'm necessarily right.
Yeah, and I think that it's...
I don't even know what I was gonna say. This happens a lot in our episodes too. Just train of thought just goes out the window.
Yes.
And that's what, but that doesn't mean I'm necessarily right.
All right. So thankfully we can see how this is gonna work.
Just goes out the window.
And that's where it always helps. And that's where
There you go. Yeah, that's not gonna make sense. All right.
Yeah, and
and I think that it's...
I don't even know what I was.
This happens a lot in our episodes too. This train of thought just goes out the window.
I guess I'm gonna leave that in there because I'm trying to like get the rhetorical exigence of this in terms of what am I showing here? What is
Goes out the window.
And that's where it always helps to have a
think
co-host
that
that can make some kind
works.
of clean start that you can then edit out the trail off in the editing process. Something like, so, Dr. Z, ...
Yeah, and clearly I didn't get to show you that, but it does happen a lot. So, let's move to the next section.
Yeah.
Exactly. So this is, I think, a pretty good representation of what our process is like. I also think that working with separate audio files is nice just because then you do have the ability to tailor, customize them. For example, I don't know if you know this, but I have specific equalizer, like EQ forms that I apply to each of our tracks individually. So like we don't have the exact same settings across them, but anyway, it's, geeky stuff.
Individually.
I did not really consciously know that, but
Yeah, because I usually handle the leveling. We both edit, but I tend to level even the tracks that Ed edits so that the audio settings broadly construed stay the same, so there's not like a difference between each of them. Because that would be one thing that would just kind of annoy me, as if, you know, every other episode, because we take turns, just had different feel to it entirely.
did not really consciously
Know that, but I knew it sounded good for a reason, and I trust you knew the reason.
reason.
Yeah, so I guess that's pretty much it.
What did we talk about for so much longer if that's pretty much it?
I guess that's pretty much it. Anything else? Oh yeah, I guess a couple of things in terms of a backlog. A backlog is really nice. We are else. Oh yeah, I guess a couple of things in terms of a
And I trust you knew the reason.
I guess
That's pretty much it.
anything else? Oh yeah, yeah. I guess a couple of things. I guess a couple of things in terms of a backlog. Pretty much it. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Pretty much it. Oh yeah.
Let's leave just a tiny bit of space here, maybe.
Much it. Oh yeah.
This is just another place where like awkward sentence constructions might necessitate re-recordings if we were doing something a little bit more.
Yeah, I guess a couple of things.
In terms of a backlog. A backlog is really nice. We are actually in the process of building our backlog, but it also means that, say you're trying to make timely references in a certain sense, like for us trying to connect to movies that are upcoming or something of that sort. It means we really need to take some time to look at the calendar and figure out when is this episode going to release. Can I make that statement? Am I going to be wrong on that? Is that movie really not going to be releasing in sync with the movie we're talking about this week? So a backlog is great, but again, it kind of takes away from the timeliness of it.
Also, do we want to talk for a second about, like, literally what we record on?
Timeliness of it.
I use a Blue Snowball microphone, and I believe both the microphone and what I'm about to say. Yeah.
Bit.
Also, do we
Want to talk for a second about, like, literally what we record on?
Oh, like computer-wise?
Well, microphone-wise.
Oh, microphone. Oh, yeah, definitely. I kind of talked about this last night in a different episode, but yeah, what microphone equipment do you use?
What microphone equipment do you use?
I forget if I even answer this. Sometimes we get like sidetracked and our tangents just kind of fade.
What microphone equipment do you use, Ed?
I use a Blue Snowball microphone, and
well,
I believe both the microphone and what I'm about to say next were things that you told me about, but there's also a thing called a pop screen that you can put on. So the microphone hooks up via the USB drive to my laptop, and then the pop screen has an attachment that clamps to my desk, and then you can adjust the screen to be in front of the microphone and basically speak into the pop screen. And you'll have to remind, I know there's a good reason that we do that, but you're going to have to remind me what that reason is, or remind the listeners.
I use.
Okay, it's because, and forgive me, if you say pop, and you don't have a pop filter, a pop, you're going to hear a pop in your microphone instead of having a nice soft pop, like P noises, and like C. So like hard consonants, essentially. It prevents them from being jarring and annoying, and I just
There
wanted
I
to
was.
hopefully provide a demonstration of the differences there.
yeah, I provided a demonstration there. So, sorry for your ears. But that's the difference between a pop filter and no pop filter. You want a pop filter.
Okay.
I was wondering why you were saying pop so frequently. I guess that now makes sense.
Exactly. And I guess the last thing that I
Makes sense.
Exactly. Exactly. And
I guess the last thing that I kind of would like to say is just that if you even have the slightest desire to start a podcast, go for it. I think there's a real joy in intrinsic motivation, doing things that you enjoy. And for example, if you're working on a podcast with a friend who does not live in a close geographic area, it's quite nice to actually have a reason to talk on a regular basis, you know, sort of like a weekly appointment to get together, chat, and it's been really a cool experience over the past year.
Indeed it has. Plus I've gotten to expand my co-host's palate more, / torture him on several occasions. And there's some fun to be had there as well.
Hey, I'm still arguing Seventh Seal was an upper of a movie. I walked away feeling happy after that movie. But anyway, I guess that's basically covers most of the bases. So the
goal now is
I'm going to take this audio file. This is already being streamed, so, you know, if you're watching it, you get the raw version of this episode. But for the final project report that I'm working on, I'm going to edit this into an actual podcast, and you'll, you know, get to see the edited version. Not see, you get to hear the edited version of it.
hey, I'm still arguing
Seventh Seal was an upper of a movie.
away feeling happy.
I don't know. Maybe they have, was it synesthesia, where you get to see colors, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll see how many colors I can fit into
Damn it,
it.
see colors actually works. Dang it. Hear colors, man. See, this is why editing exists.
Exactly, hear colors. This is why editing exists. So, anything else you'd like to add before we,
So
All right. So it's a weird balance because I'm cutting part of this. I'm going to put an announcement at the beginning of this episode that sort of talks about the project and why we're doing this. But as a whole, I don't want this podcast itself to refer too much to the stream because it's a separate text. And anyway, we'll see how it comes together.
basically covers most
of the bases. So, the
way feeling happy.
Oh yeah, that's what I want to cut out.
I walked away feeling happy. So, anything else you'd like to add before we pack up for the night? Pack up for the night.
All right. Just tightening up a little bit here. Actually, coming in towards the end, you can see it up here.
For the night.
Just to reiterate what you said, since starting this a year ago, I mean, Dr. Z have known each other for longer than I like to admit sometimes. And
Since starting
this a year ago, I mean, Dr. Z have known each other.
I mean, Dr. Z have known each other. This a year ago. I mean, Dr. Z have known each other for longer than I like to admit sometimes. And we've
always been close since we met. We've always been close, but
this
does give us a tangible reason to talk to each other, and sometimes even good friends need that. And I've had a great time. I look forward to continuing this for a while and continuing learning about this wonderful, weird, sometimes intimidating, but always illuminating world of podcasting.
Cats.
Yes.
next goal, episode 100.
What do I make you suffer? I should get to pick episode 100 since you got episode 50.
I guess that's fair, although then I guess I get to claim 75 since you had 25.
Episode 100.
what will I
Right.
make you suffer?
I should get to pick episode 100 since you got episode 50.
I guess that's fair, although then I guess I get to claim 75 since you had 25.
That's a fair trade.
Yeah, as a whole, I guess just one final shout out. If you are
Looking for a podcast to listen to. Yeah. Yeah, as a whole, I guess just one final shout out.
if you are looking for a podcast to listen to, you should totally check out Radiolab and This American Life.
And if you like film podcasts, you should listen to Film Spotting and The Next Picture Show. And also, you must remember this, Karina Longworth is amazing. And Film Spotting SVU, that's also a really good podcast. And Kermode and Mayo's Film Review Show. And
We have a lot of recommendations.
Review show.
I don't know, I don't think there's any other film podcasts that are any good, do you?
think I heard my cat in this too.
I'm not Samantha, sorry, my cat's in the background, so maybe hearing my cat going crazy at the moment.
But yeah, so those are some other podcasts you should check out.
Are any good, do you?
But yeah, so those are some other podcasts you should check out. And for YouTube, check out Movies with Mikey.
By all means, it is fantastic. I don't even have to say the word, just check it out. Movies with Mikey.
Okay, well, while we're repping YouTube channels that aren't ours, you should check out Lindsay Ellis. She does some great long-form video essays, and also Every Frame a Painting.
Oh, she's back? Wasn't she like formerly Nostalgia Chick?
She was formerly the Nostalgia Chick, but now she still has kind of a comedic edge to what she does, but it is a lot more analytical. If you want something that's unexpectedly entertaining, she has like a 35-minute video about the Disney movie Hercules.
I know what I'm gonna do tonight, though.
It sounds so very niche, but it's actually rather fascinating. She used to talk about screenplay structure and stuff like that. I recommend it.
Alright, well, I'll just check it out, and I hope our audience will too. And don't forget the Criterion Collection podcast if you're looking for a interesting niche movie podcast to follow. So with that, I've been Dr. Zed.
And I've been Ed.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
All right, so yeah, I guess that works. Yeah, all right, so that's an episode and edited together. Last stage is to go and get the theme song back in for the outro, which can just pretty much add a fade in.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
And then fade it out. Last thing is put the credits in here. Okay. So that's essentially my process for editing a podcast. I hope maybe seeing it gives you some idea of what goes into this. I was a little bit laxer in some spots than others. And of course, one thing that I haven't done tonight that I plan to do is to actually go and add a opening to this. So a little bit of just a statement explaining to our listeners what this was, what it is, and then it'll be ready to compile together and post up on the website and release. So with that, I think I'm going to end the stream for now, but look forward to, in the next couple weeks, going to be doing a couple visual projects. One that was a commission from a friend that I made a couple attempts at, but I need to finish, and another that's going to be geeky, but a little bit of a challenge to sort of chronicle the weekly build. In any case, hope you all have a good night, and I'll see y'all later. Once I go and click stop.